speaking. You are now aboard the Fantasy Voyage Express. Time to pack your bags and let us take you on a journey to victory.
Come on, y'all, let's take a ride. You ain't gotta say a word, just slide inside. It's time to take your ass on another kind of trip, cause you ain't at the top if you don't got the ship. Grab some chips and a drink to sip and close your eyes and hit that switch. We're going to a place where everybody kick it, yeah, Blitzalytics. Ain't no friends and there ain't no simping, cause there ain't no team about to catch me tripping. Do you gotta get a stack or a third tier back? We got you covered all season to the ship from the draft. Take you to a place where you get that win, give you more than enough to defeat your friends. And if you can't take the heat, get your ass out the kitchen. We on a mission. Come along and ride on this fantasy. Slide, slide, slippity slide. When it's all up on the line, we can ease your mind. Come along and ride on this fantasy. Slide, slide, hoorah. If you want to get the dub, you gotta tune in live.
You are now watching Fantasy Voyage, presented by Blitzalytics.com. And here are your hosts, Cody Manning and RobRob.
And welcome in to Fantasy Voyage, presented by Blitzalytics.com. As always, I'll be your main host here, the cartoon there on the left. And that's me, RobRob. Over there to my cartoon gentleman's left, you'll see Mr. Cody Manning. How are you this morning, Cody?
Man, I'm doing pretty well outside my apartment complex. I've been talking about on my podcast over the last couple months of waking me up way before my alarm clock's supposed to go off. Other than that, I'm in great mood, dude. It's one of my favorite months of the year. Like I told you earlier, I was listening to Christmas music while we waited to hop on a call together. So I'm in that cheerful mood. But man, talk about probably the longest week of football in my life, though.
Oh, just drug on and on and on. Felt like many years. It's the perfect week of 2020. It felt much like a microcosm of the year in a week. So.
That is true. That is true.
We'll do like we do every week for you. We'll hit you with some studs and duds, some start and sits, some waiver wires. No more trade targets, because if you're still trading your league, that's pretty weird. So we're going to not do that this week. But of course, the only reason you're here is the streamable defenses. We'll get to those at the end. If any of the listeners do have questions, go ahead and pop those in the chat. We will answer them in between segments. And I know you're like, what are you guys doing here on a Thursday? Yeah, we'll blame the Ravens. They ruined it for everybody. So let's go ahead and start with news, right? Will Fuller suspended 6 games for PEDs. Was it Bradley Roby? Is that the other one as well? Cornerback also got suspended for PEDs. So Texans down there roiding to get all the 4 wins this year. Obviously, Will was having a good year, and this is the most he'd been on the field. So maybe he needs the steroids to stay healthy. I don't know, man. This has been crazy. He had a huge week. I think he finished as wide receiver 2 this week.
Just with a bang.
Yeah, go out with a bang, right? So you had him on your lineup. You were so happy, and then woke up and he's gone, essentially for the remainder of the year. So, is there anything we need to talk about what we do with Will Fuller? Because I mean, I don't know that you've got anybody that's going to replace him. He was one of those kind of freaky guys who has a certain niche and role there. Obviously, Deshaun's going to have to throw to somebody, but I mean, I don't think you're getting Will Fuller production from any of them.
Yeah, for me, I mean, obviously, if you're a Deshaun Watson owner, there is the narrative when you look at the splits with Fuller in and out of the lineup, Watson's production typically drops. So if you're a Watson owner that's been enjoying his production over the past month, there is a worry he might have a slight drop in production going forward, especially during this time when after this week we're going to be entering the fantasy football playoffs. Obviously, if you're a Brandon Cooks owner, though, that's huge because that just upticks more targets for him. So it actually puts him as a weekly play that you can maybe count on. Other than he's more than likely not going to be a bust when he's been a boomer bust type of player this year. And then outside chance, if you're desperate for wide receiver, if you're in a super deep league, I would consider adding Kiki Kuti. Randall Cobb, he's still hurt, so he's still hurt. So there's a slight chance Kiki Kuti in deep leagues could add value at the back end of the calendar.
What was it last year? A couple years ago, I remember it was you had to have both Kiki and Will on the team because whichever one played that week, you'd play them. So I mean, we've seen Kiki be productive. I just don't think you'll have the monster games that Will had. So it's going to be hard to replace that. Will, come on, man. Stay clean, bud. Let's move on to injuries. First one here, Josh Jacobs did suffer an ankle sprain, has a chance to play. I'm in the belief that if I have any shares of him, I'm rolling him out. The Raiders are in the thick of a playoff push here. They need this win. I think Josh is all but, I'd say, G2G, man. I'd roll him out for sure this week.
Yeah, if he plays, you play him. Again, this goes back to 2 weeks on my waiver claims when I said about adding Devontae Booker. He's a premium handcuff. Jacobs is prone to these ticky-tack injuries. So, again, if Booker is out there on the waivers and you're a Jacobs owner, you better go grab him.
Yeah, grab him now, and then if there's news that morning, you're ready to rock. So, because I think either one is interchangeable in that matchup, and we'll talk a little bit about those matchups later on. Daniel Jones suffered a hamstring injury, outside chance of playing. Like I said, my gut says Jacobs goes. My gut says Danny. I can't. It's hard to not call him Danny Dimes, but I'm with you. I can't do that till he starts slinging the rock again. But Daniel Jones, I think Daniel Jones sits this week. They need a rest. I don't think this week puts him in or out of contention in the NFC least. So I think there's a shot Danny misses this game.
Yeah, I think so too. It just sucks because if you're like a Sterling Shepard owner, Evan Ingram owner, even though I'm upset with Darius Slayton from this past week, a Darius Slayton owner, this is a perfect matchup going against that Seattle defense. Even though Seattle's defense has been playing better, but still, this was a great matchup. But you feel less enthusiastic about their chances of having a good day on Sunday.
Is that Case Keenum there now?
No, it's Colt McCoy.
Colt McCoy. Okay, I get. For some reason, I've always gotten those two mixed up. So, I don't know, man. I don't think that. I think you're probably just expect a little less from the receivers. To me, I think Colt can have a Danny Dimes-like game this week. But for me, gut says Daniel's out. Phillip Lindsay suffered a minor knee injury. Does have a chance to play. Maybe this week they'll have a quarterback to help him out. But I mean, what do we do here with Lindsay? Is this uptick for Gordon, or are we just expecting him to go?
I mean, when you got a back like Gordon, I mean, not saying he's a world beater, but when you have a back like Gordon that you're paying for him, if Lindsay's kind of banged up, I could see them giving him a week to rest. But again, they're playing the Chiefs on Sunday, so more likely they're playing catch-up ball. So I don't see the running attack being much of a impact in that matchup.
Yeah, this is probably a sit in a normal matchup for me anyway. So if you're having to roll him out injured, man, sorry for you not making the playoffs this year. But yeah, absolutely. Let's get into studs and duds. We'll do it like we do every week. We'll go quarterback, you quarterback me, running back you, running back me, and get through wide receivers and tight ends as well. So whenever you're ready, Cody, hit him with them stud and dud QBs. And I know you're waiting to knock this dud off. We've been waiting for this one.
Yeah, so my stud quarterback of this week was Kirk Cousins. I just want to give sometimes we like to pat ourselves on the back, and I made him my quarterback waiver claim the past 2 weeks just because I like the matchup, and he delivered this week. Number 3 quarterback. He was 34-45, 307 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 rushes, 19 yards. He did have a fumble, but he still finished with 26.18 points. So if you did listen to me and you rolled with him, he definitely delivered for you this week. And then my dud. Rob kind of alluded to it. Jack's been giving us shit because I'm always a Derek Carr hater. So I got to jump on the opportunity when it's here, especially when he has been pretty solid this year as a quarterback. It's Derek Carr. Not only he's kind of been a streamable guy, but he had a streamable matchup against the Falcons, who I'm going to talk about here later as when we get into our start sits as far as how bad they are against the fantasy quarterbacks this year. But Derek Carr finished as the number 35 quarterback. Number 35. There's 32 NFL teams. Nathan Peterman, his backup, finished number 34. Derek Carr was 22 of 34. He had 215 yards, an interception, 3 fumbles on the day, finished with 0.6 points when he had a prime matchup to show out. No interesting fact about him, too, I found last night, is he leads the league in fumbles. He has 11 fumbles on the year, and he lost 8 of those fumbles. So he does protect the ball when he throws it, but he's got to learn to hold on to it when he's in the pocket.
Yeah, dude got the butterfingers and the dropsies. So there's that, Jack. I love the Peterman stat. That's hilarious to me that Peterman finishes 1 spot ahead of him there. My start of the week, Deshaun Watson, number 1 quarterback, 17 of 25, 318 yards, 1, 2, 3, count them, 4 touchdowns, 8 rushes, 24 yards. Didn't get in the end zone that way, though. 33.12 points. The reason I have him number 1, obviously he's the low-hanging fruit, right, at number 1. But I wanted to talk about the stat line now that Fuller's out. I think you could see comparable numbers, but I think what happens is that maybe that 318 falls down to a solid 285, 290. The 3 passing touchdowns falls down to 3. You get those 8 rushes up to like a 10 or a 12, and I think 60 yards and a rushing touchdown. So I think it balances out fantasy-wise. Real world, they're going to be worse, and I'm sorry, Texans fans. You're going to not be as fun to watch, but I think fantasy-wise, you can kind of expect this from Deshaun, but I see a little bit more rushing in there as well for him. So no worries if Deshaun's your guy, although, again, the passing's definitely going to come down a bit. My dud quarterback of the week, and I do this every now and then, just when we get names that don't normally fall down here, I'll use them. Kyler Murray, number 26 quarterback on the week. 23 of 34, only 170 yards, no touchdowns. He had 5 rushes, 31 yards, didn't sniff pay dirt there either. Got you a total of 8.9 fantasy points. Again, this is just because it's an anomaly, I wanted to say his name is a dud, man. I love the kid, but just a down week for him. Not anything to worry about moving forward either. Whenever you're ready, Cody, we can talk about these running backs, because your boy here, man, that was a good start on Thanksgiving for me.
Oh yeah, definitely. And he was in one of my money leagues, which helped me, and which does weekly payouts. And I barely got that weekly payout this past week by 2 points, and he was a part of that. Antonio Gibson, man, he was a guy I've been, I was hyped up about during the draft process. I've been hyped up about him in the summer, what he could bring to Washington, and now he's starting to come along over these past few weeks. This past week he finished as the number 2 running back. He had 20 rushes, 115 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, 5 receptions for 21 yards on 7 targets, 36.6 points. Me sitting there, this was right after I ate on Thanksgiving, and I was literally sitting there kind of in a semi-food coma, just enjoying with a smile on my face. And when I definitely did a little fist pump, and a little Tiger Woods fist pump in the air. When he was scoring, because nothing's better when a guy goes off on a Thursday matchup for you.
And his targets have gone up the last 3 weeks. If he starts seeing the increased passing flow, get out of here. He's a league winner.
Yes, sir. And then my dud from the same game, man, Ezekiel Elliott, number 57 running back on the week. 10 rushes, 32 yards, 1 reception, 7 yards on 3 targets, only 2.9 points. And I mean, this is a guy when he's a top 5 pick, and it's like we talked about, it's fantasy playoff time. This is a week that, some guys might need him to win to get in, and then obviously make a run in the playoffs. And man, he's having a lot of these dud weeks where you have to second guess if the matchup's not there, do you even want to play him at this point? So definitely a down year for Zeke.
Feels like the fire's gone with Zeke, and that may just be the season right now, but it just does. I don't see that violence when he runs this season at all. Gibby, though, just a little note for you guys. Finished number 2 running back to who? Derrick Henry. Guess who my running backs were in my money league this week? Derrick Henry, Antonio Gibson. Game over. Didn't need another player. My stud running back of the week, though, I went with Lat Murray at number 5. 19 rushes, 124 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 reception for 2 yards. Didn't get in the end zone there. Finished with 25.6 points. And I'm just going to go ahead and roll that into my dud as well, who was Alvin Kamara at number 36. He had 11 rushes, 54 yards, no touchdowns, 1 reception on only 2 targets for -2 yards and 6.2 points. I made the joke that the only guy that can stop Alvin Kamara in the league is Taysom Hill, and he has damn done it. Alvin Kamara without that passing game flow. I mean, the guy can run, right? 11 for 54 is not bad. It's not stellar, but it's not bad, right? But it's the target share that's missing. I kind of wanted to ask you, Cody, as long as Taysom's in there, like, if I've got the handcuff for Kamara, am I rolling Murray instead until Taysom's out, or what?
I do think that was more of a game script. They were up like 30-0, and they don't want to get Alvin Kamara hurt. So that's why I do think Lat Murray ended up getting all those rushes. But there is definitely the concern now with Kamara's production dropping ever since Taysom took over. I definitely want to see what happens, but I mean, he's a stud. So, I mean, you got to believe him in your lineup.
It hurts so much, man. It hurts so, because you could have legitimately convinced me that Alvin Kamara was in the MVP race until Drew Brees went down. And now I'm like, Alvin who? Like, since Taysom came in fantasy-wise, Alvin Kamara's just fallen off the face of the
planet. Yeah, he's definitely has. There's definitely the concern entering the playoffs, but there is a slight, we'll see. There's a slight hope that maybe Brees does return after this week. I think this is his third week since he's been placed on IR. So
I'll tell you what, those guys have 3 quarterbacks. 2 of them would still be killing it with Alvin Kamara. Just Taysom Hill, baby. Let's move it back to you for these wide receivers here, and your stud. Just what a fucking quarter the guy had.
Yeah, he basically did it all in the quarter. Then he wrapped it up in the second half with his 3rd touchdown. But yeah, everybody knows what I'm talking about. Tyreek Hill, number 1 wide receiver on the week. 13 receptions, 269 yards, 3 touchdowns on 15 targets, finished with 57.9 points in the game. I think if any defensive coordinator learned, you have to have somebody play over top and not try to do one-on-one. Nobody can cover him one-on-one. He's too fast. Just don't do it. He's a guy that deserves bracket coverage. I know there's a lot of weapons in that Chiefs offense, but the last thing you can do is let Patrick Mahomes just take deep shots on to Tyreek Hill on one-on-one matchups all day. It's not gonna lead to a win. And then my dud is from that same matchup, Antonio Brown, number 88 wide receiver. And they were down big. You thought he would get more targets and be more involved in the passing attack, but he wasn't. Only 2 receptions, 11 yards on 3 targets, finished with 3.1 points. And I think this is the scenario where with these Bucs wide receivers, and you can throw even Gronk in that conversation, is, they're boom or bust guys. Either they're going to have a solid to great week for you, or they're going to lay an egg like Antonio Brown did.
Here's what I will say, and I did not think I would say this at the beginning of the year, but we did have a comment. Hello, Agent Alvaro. Welcome to the show. I believe the most consistent guy that you can start in the offense is Gronk. I would not have said that at the beginning of the year, but he feels like the one who's carved out his role right now. Like and with as crappy as tight end is, you don't lose as many points either way. I think he's the most consistent start. And I took that ding, had AB rolled out this week, 3.1 points. Thanks, running backs, for making up for that. My wide receiver here, I went with a guy we haven't got to talk a lot about this year. Jarvis Juice Landry finished number 3 wide receiver on the week. 8 receptions, 11 targets, 143 yards, 1 touchdown, 28.3 points, and just a vintage Juice game here, man. I remember when this was weekly for him. I kind of miss those days with Jarvis. My dud, Cooper Kupp, number 65 wide receiver on the week, so really not even playable in most leagues. 2 receptions, 5 targets, 41 yards, 4.1 points. I got to perusing his stats, and man, he's actually having a down year with a couple of mighty nice games that if you took out, you'd be like, what happened to Cooper Kupp this season? So I'm interested to see what happens with him moving forward as a Rams fan. To pay him and then have the output we've had in the majority of games is kind of gross for me. Whenever you're ready, Cody, we can, I guess, talk about tight ends. It feels like I don't want to any week anymore.
I understand. I'm going with my boy, Dallas Goedert. Finished as the number 1 tight end, 7 receptions, 75 yards, a touchdown on 10 targets, finished with 20.5 points. Gotta love that production, but if you are a Goedert owner, I would a little slight warning that Zach Ertz was activated off the IR this week, so he'll be making his way back. I still think Goedert will be the number 1 tight end. He'll still get those targets, but there's a slight chance during the playoffs Ertz comes in and takes away some of his targets.
Can I ask you something before you move on then?
Okay.
Would you spot add Zach Ertz if he's available in your, because they've been trash, right? The Eagles have been trash, and you know how much Wentz loves throwing to Ertz.
Yeah, I would if I needed. I mean, yeah, I mean, tight end's trash this year, so I would definitely at least grab him on my bench, but I wouldn't play him until I see what happens.
Fair.
But if you got a spot on your bench and you don't like your tight end, it's been an inconsistent position for you this year. I would definitely consider adding Ertz. It sounds like he should play this week. If he plays and if he balls out on your bench, it is what it is. But if he plays and he balls out, then you got somebody for your playoffs that you can slide
Yeah,
in
give
as
me
a
6 or 8 targets this week, and next week I'm loading them up.
Right, right. Yeah. Let's see how it all plays out. And then my dud tight end is Jordan Reed, number 28 tight end on the week. He had 2 receptions for 18 yards, but he had 6 targets. So for whatever he gets the targets, but for whatever reason, him and Nick Mullins cannot connect on those. He finished with 3.8 points. So just a letdown week for Jordan Reed.
Yeah, again, it's what you
Yeah.
expect these days.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, my stud tight end, Richard Rodgers, number 6 tight end, 3 receptions, 6 targets, 53 yards, and a touchdown, 14.3 points. Only reason I'm talking about him this week is because he destroyed Vegas's money. The dude, so many people lost money because he caught that touchdown. This guy has just got a nose for like that 60-yard bomb at the end of the game. He'll find it. He did it again this week in garbage time. Killed the under.
Can I tell a story really quick?
Yes, please do.
Why that touchdown was so huge for me. The weekly payout I just talked about I have Antonio Gibson. So in that league, I also have Miles Sanders. And the guy I was battling with at that time had Seattle's defense. He had like the whole game, like a point or two up on me because they kept on sacking Carson Wentz. So I'm like, I thought I had a cushion. Like I thought Sanders was going to have a solid like amount of catches and everything, but Sanders had a kind of a letdown week this week. And I was down 2 points on that drive, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, and like the bettors were watching it for betting. I was watching it for that. I was like, I just need a touchdown, take away the points. And then not only he catches that touchdown, so I'm like, yes, I think that took away enough points. And then I saw Sanders got the 2-point conversion, and that gave me the 2-point lead to win the weekly payout. And I was so ecstatic about that.
Cody's the 10% of people that were happy that Richard Rodgers caught that. Like,
Yeah.
So many bettors, dude, pulling out hair. Oh, was it the line? I think he pushed the line by a half a point on that, too. Like, what a joke. Oh, God, that would kill me. To lose money like that. My dud tight ends are all tight ends, but again this week I'll tell you it's the Rams tight ends, Everett and Higbee. Everett actually had the better week, finished tight end 30, 2 receptions, 2 targets, 16 yards, 3.6 points. Higbee, tight end 41, 1 reception, 2 targets, 6 yards, 1.6 points. I will continue to hammer on Tyler Higbee because we paid him money and people were on his balls going into this season, and I told you not to be. He has only had one game over 6 fantasy points, and that was week 2, people. Now, Gerald Everett has had 2 games over 6 fantasy points. He has been more fantasy production minus 1 week than Higbee all season. That experiment did not work out for fantasy owners this season. Sorry for ya. I mean, that'll do it for studs and duds. I don't think we got any questions. Nope, no questions as of right now. Let's move into your top 5 waiver claims then, Cody.
Yeah, so my top 5 waiver claims this week, somebody I talked about earlier as a stud is Kirk Cousins. He's still available in 60% of the leagues. If you need a spot starter this week, I know like Tom Brady's on a bye this week. Maybe you've been streaming Teddy Bridgewater. He's on a bye this week. He's got a great matchup. They're going against Jacksonville, and I think this is the end of his little stretch. I told people about that you can run with him. They do have the Bucks next week, so I think that'll be the time you could sit him or even release him. But if you're looking to stream a quarterback, if you're in a 2-quarterback league, I think Kirk Cousins has a great matchup, and he is rolling right now. My running back ad of the week is Cam Akers. He's available in 70% of the leagues. He only had 9 rushes this past week, 84 yards and a touchdown. But just like we've kind of talked about with these rookie running backs, it was going to be a wait for them, especially with it being a pandemic this year. But typically, rookie running backs come along at the back end of the year. We're seeing Antonio Gibson come along. 2 weeks ago, J.K. Dobbins had most of the snaps in the Ravens backfield. 2 weeks ago, before he had a miss this past week because he got placed on the list, Jonathan Taylor had like 22 carries. So I think we're kind of seeing these rookie running backs come along. Now, Akers to me right now is a bench ad, and just to have on your bench right now and see how this situation plays out. But if Darrell Henderson gets hurt, if Malcolm Brown gets hurt, I think he can slide in as a flex play in the fantasy playoffs. My wide receiver ad of the week, I am going to talk about my boy because he did show up, is T.Y. Hilton. He's available in 62% of the leagues. He had 4 receptions, 81 yards, a touchdown on 5 targets. And before he had his big bomb catch and then the touchdown, I think I put it out on – no, I did not put it out on Twitter beforehand. But like I end up putting it out on Twitter after the big catch. But I said to myself earlier in the game, I'm like, this looks like the old T.Y. It looked like he was 100% healthy. The way his body was moving, I'm like, I have not seen him move like this all year. And if you can get a potential, I would view him as a bench ad. Let's see how this plays out, especially when they got. You're going to talk about it here. I saw here in the coming segment. He's got one of the teams that he torches. He plays them twice in the next 3 weeks. They got the Raiders next week, who's suspect for giving up big plays. I mean, T.Y. Hilton's a proven wide receiver 1 in the past, and he could be your wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside. I do definitely want to see it play out because he hasn't been dependable this year, but I think T.Y. Hilton's worth an ad to anybody that potentially needs wide receiver help in the playoffs. My tight end ad of the week, again, like
this is just because it's Christmas season, right? Like I thought you put this in as a fucking joke.
Hey, maybe that's a good way I can play with it. But Kyle Rudolph, available in 85% of the leagues. This is why I say he's an ad. Irv Smith Jr. has been dealing with a groin injury. I am not 100% sure about his status for this week. This past week with Irv Smith out of the lineup, Rudolph had 7 receptions, 68 yards on 8 total targets. Now, I will say that probably did help that Thielen was also out, but Thielen will be back this week. But still, he had 8 targets. If Irv Smith was to miss this game against the Jaguars, who's terrible at defending the pass, I think you could maybe roll the dice with Kyle Rudolph on a streaming option. Again, only if Irv Smith is out. The tight end's a crapshoot, so what? Don't blame me. And then my flex ad of the week is Benny Snell from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's available in 64% of the leagues. He had 16 rushes for 60 yards, 3 receptions for 33 yards on 4 targets. Didn't really do much with his volume, but that's the thing. Volume is king in fantasy. He got the volume. Now, James Conner is placed on the list. He did test positive. How that works is if they get placed on the list, if they don't show any symptoms, they can return in 10 days. If they show any symptoms, they can return in 14 days. But I also do wonder, because the CDC did change their guidelines on the quarantine. They reduced it. So I wonder if the NFL is going to make that adjustment as well. So there is a slight chance. I'm not sure about if Connor can return next Monday against the football team. But if Connor is out for the foreseeable future, I mean, I view him as a bench ad. I really don't like this matchup this week, but he's got the volume. So he's definitely worth a bench ad at this point. Again, my quarterback ad, Kirk Cousins. My running back ad, Cam Akers. My wide receiver ad, T.Y. Hilton. Tight end ad, Kyle Rudolph. And my flex ad is Benny Snell.
And like Roy likes to tell us every time we talk about Benny Snell, coolest mouth guard in football. So definitely a go there. And here's what we'll do. We'll switch it up for start sit since you just talked all that way. I'll start with quarterback, give you a chance to rest the lungs there a little bit. We clowned on him a little earlier, but my start of the week is going to be Derek Carr versus the Jets. I think he's going to have a bounce back game. Fourth worst. The Jets are fourth worst versus the quarterback position already at 21.4 points per game. 6 of the past 7 quarterbacks to face the Jets have hit 22 or more fantasy points. I think we make that 7 out of 8 here with Derek Carr. My sit, I'm going to go bold. I'm going to tell you to sit Kyler Murray. The Rams are only giving up 13.5 points per game to the position, that's second best. I just see maybe Kyler's going to have his worst 2 or 3 game stretch here. He didn't have a great one. The division beats up on each other traditionally anyway. I think we have a down game here from Kyler Murray. Now, again, this is one of the ones where we say he's obviously a stud, so if you can't afford or don't have another quarterback, obviously you start him, but you temper your expectations. So start is Derek Carr, sit is Kyler Murray, and whenever you're ready for your quarterbacks, Cody.
My quarterback start of the week is Taysom Hill against the Falcons. We saw him have a solid game 2 weeks ago against the Falcons, put up some numbers, and I think that can continue. Atlanta is the second worst defense against the quarterback position. They're allowing 23.7 points per game. Again, too, like I mentioned, I think Breeze could potentially be back in a week or two, so you might as well roll him while you got him. With Taysom Hill. So I think he's a good start. My sit is in that matchup as well as Matt Ryan against the Saints. Saints are the fourth best defense against the quarterback position. They only allow 15.2 points per game. Matt Ryan's had been having a lot of dud performances this year. I know he had one 2 weeks ago against the Saints, and the Saints defense has been playing great over this past month and a half. So if you have another option than Matt Ryan, I would definitely go with that.
And let's just be real, dude. Last week, the Saints basically played during a bye week. It was a bye week for their defense.
Right.
They weren't doing anything, so they didn't have to. We'll go on to my running backs, and I'll give you my start here is David Montgomery versus the Lions. Worst versus the running back position at 28.2 points per game. And I'll give you a little insight to the show here. I headed down to 2 or 3 names, and I asked Cody, and I pulled this quote directly from you, Cody. Lions placed Danny Shelton and Trufant on IR, plus fired their head coach and suck versus the running back. Nothing else needs to be said here. If Monty's going to get it done, he'll get it done for you this week. My sit is going to be what you mentioned earlier, either of Snell or Connor, whoever ultimately gets the start. The Washington football team's defense is legit. They're 6th best versus the running back position at 15.5 points per game. I think it just behooves Pittsburgh to do more passing in this matchup. I just don't see a great game for Snell or Connor, though Cody is right. They will have the volume. Whoever gets the start is going to have volume. So whenever you're ready, Cody, we can talk about your starting running backs and your sit running back.
Yeah, so my start running backs this week, I think both of them could potentially have a good game. Is Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines against the Texans. Taylor was activated off the list, so he's back this week. Hines will always have his role in the offense, and Houston is the second worst defense against the running back position. They've been allowing 25.7 points per game. So I think both of those two could potentially have both big matchups in this game. Big performances in this game. Then my sit of the week is I did a little combination because Todd Gurley kind of surprised us last week when he had a miss because of his injury. I know he practiced yesterday, but Todd Gurley, and then I put slash backup running backs, either Brian Hill or Ito Smith. Any of their running backs from the Falcons, whoever is playing, I would avoid them this week. New Orleans is the best defense against the running back position. They're only allowing 12.3 points per game, as me and RobRob always talk about every week. I think they're at 55 or 56 games right now in a row of not allowing a 100-yard rusher. So yeah, if you play anybody against the Saints, they're touchdown dependent. So you're just praying that they find the end zone at some point in that game.
Plus that matchup, Todd Gurley versus that Saints defense is like double touchdown dependency because he's been touchdown dependent too. So like it's not like he's been racking up yards against defenses that give up yards. So he's got next to no chance, minus a couple of goal line sniffs, that he'll put up a big game for you. 100% in on that sit. My wide receiver start, Cody mentioned it earlier. I think you can go pluck T.Y. Hilton right off of waivers, plug him right into probably expecting a flex position, but I think he finishes as at least a wide receiver 2 this week. He's playing the Texans. They're 10th worst versus the wide receiver position, but Hilton has daddied these guys. Like, he destroys the Houston Texans. In 16 games against Houston, he has caught 85 of 139 targets for 1,537 yards and 10 touchdowns, and it's even worse for the Texans when they're in Houston. He's had 7 for 121 and 3 touchdowns, 9 for 223 yards and a touchdown, 5 for 175 and 2 touchdowns, and then another one of 9 grabs for 199 yards at NRG Stadium. Again, this is just a daddy-son matchup I'm playing here, and I think T.Y., like you said, looked really good this week. And going against the Texans, I think he's just going to crap all over them. I see big things for T.Y. this week. My sit, I'll do another bold one here. I've seen people tell you, sit Christian Kirk. I'm going to tell you to sit DeAndre Hopkins versus the Rams. Fifth best versus the wide receiver position at 14.8 points per game. And we have enough games between the two because of the interdivisional matchups when they were in the south of the AFC. In 7 career matchups against Jalen Ramsey, Hopkins has only caught 29 of 43 targets for 351 yards and 2 scores against that direct coverage. That averages out to 10.9 PPR points per game when he's matched up against Jalen Ramsey. Jalen loves this matchup. Jalen comes to play when he's got a guy like this on the other side of him, and I think he holds him in check this week. Again, I know that's an awfully big name to have the gonads to sit, but if you can do it, I certainly would. And I know it sounds crazy, right, Cody? I would sit DeAndre Hopkins and roll out T.Y. Hilton this week.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting matchup between him and Ramsey. I definitely understand that the shadow matchup. I would try to avoid that if you can. And again, it's kind of like what I'm about to talk with my sit wide receivers. You can even consider it more of a caution play.
Yeah, absolutely. So break it down when you're ready, man. Hit him with yours.
Yeah, so my start is Justin Jefferson against the Jaguars. Jacksonville is the 5th worst defense against the wide receiver position. They're allowing 26.4 points per game. I think he's setting up to have one of his bigger games again. He keeps on racking up 100 yards, and he's becoming that wide receiver I thought he could be for fantasy owners. I thought he'd be more wide receiver 3, but now he's kind of wide receiver 2 with his consistent production. My sit of the week, like I already kind of alluded to, I'm going any of the Steelers wide receivers, whether it's Juju, Chase Claypool, or Deontay Johnson against the football team. Just like DeAndre Hopkins, if you got to play him, I understand. This is more of a caution play. Washington is the best defense against wide receivers in fantasy this year. They're only allowing 17.4 points per game. Again, I know it's the last week before playoffs. If you got to win, you got to play your studs, but just be wary that these Steelers wide receivers might not show up for you on Monday night.
It feels like this could be like a 13-6 game, right? Like just a defensive battle, great defense on both sides. Sure, this Pittsburgh offense has the ability to get going, but again, that Washington football team defense is really for real. So here we go. We'll talk about these guys one more time during the show, I guess.
This is our speed through part.
Yeah, tight end start. Mike Gesicki versus Bengals. 5th worst versus tight end, 15.6 points per game. Touchdown hunting, right? So get this. All of Mike's touchdowns have come from Fitzpatrick, who's expected to get the start with Tua missing again this week. I'm hunting touchdowns. I think Mike Gesicki gets you one. Now, here is an interesting one for you, Cody. For the first time, I think, all season for me from a tight end, an interesting take. I'm going to tell you to sit Jared Cook versus Atlanta, which Atlanta actually gives up, the most points to the tight end at 15.9 points per game. And I'm telling you to sit him. Cook hasn't topped 30 receiving yards since week 8. He's been shut out completely in 2 of the last 3 games. And since Taysom Hill's taken over at quarterback, Cook has got a total of 1 catch on 3 targets for 6 yards in 2 games. The matchup is juicy. The player is not. I get the Taysom Hill start at quarterback, right? Because he's going to run. It's like a running back there for you. He ain't tossing the rock to nobody but can't guard Mike. So for me, Jared Cook is a sit, even though it's a juicy matchup. So start Mike Gesicki, sit Jared Cook. Never thought I'd tell you to sit the tight end in the juiciest matchup of all time. So your turn to hit him with these useless-ass tight ends, buddy.
I think I'm gonna roll with T.J. Hawkinson as a start this week against the Bears. Chicago's tied for the 3rd worst against the tight end position, allowing 10 points per game, and I think it's just not only a great matchup, but I saw Darren. Who's it? Bevel? I think Bevel, who's taken over as the interim head coach. I always love it when these interim head coaches take over, and then they always talk about things they want to do. So it's like the whole time they were sitting behind the head coach, this guy's an idiot. We should be doing this.
And not to mention, I think the players in Detroit hated Matt Patricia. So I think the firing I think the Detroit has a ball game this week.
Yeah, he said something. Anyways, Bevel's what I was about to say was Bevel said something about opening up the offense, being more pick up the speed, open up things. So I think obviously Patricia, coming from New England, probably wanted to run the ball more, and so he probably wants to pass the ball more. And I think Kenny Galladay might be returning this week from his injury, so that should open up things for Hawkinson. And I think Hawkinson could potentially not only see the targets but find the end zone this week against the Bears. Then my sit tight end of the week is Logan Thomas against the Steelers. Pittsburgh is the best defense against tight end position. They're only allowing 4.1 points per game. He's kind of been boom or bust this year, and I think if you got other options in Logan Thomas, I would consider playing somebody else.
Couldn't agree more. Man, we're missing our audience because we had to stream late. I hate you, Ravens. I hate you.
And we'll talk about it later, but we'll have to do it again next week at this time.
I know. God, Ravens effing up the whole world right now. God. 2020, and the thing that sucks the worst right now is the Ravens. All right, Cody. I guess we don't have any questions, so we'll come to the reason that everyone comes to listen anyway. Why don't you hit them with your top 5 streamable defenses this week?
Yeah, so my top 5 streamable defenses this week, I always go with the low-hanging fruit at 1. We got the Raiders against the Jets. Do I need to say more? Plenty of sack potential and turnover potential in that matchup, and a low-scoring affair by that offense. My number 2 defense is the Dolphins against the Bengals. Dolphins have been playing great defense over this past month and a half. And then, again, we got the Bengals-led offense by Brandon Allen. We saw the Giants' defense take advantage of that last week, and I think the Dolphins can take advantage of that this week. So I definitely love the Dolphins against the Bengals. My number 3 defense is the Vikings against the Jaguars. Mike Glennon is already been named the starter this week. They're not bringing Gardner Minshew back yet. So I love the opportunity for the Vikings to get after him, to get those sacks, and then obviously the potential turnovers will be there with Mike Glennon slinging the rock. My number 4 streamable defense this week is the Seahawks against the Giants. RobRob and myself talked about it earlier. Colt McCoy is more than likely going to be the starting quarterback on Sunday. So I like their chances of them holding him not only to not score that much. I think there could be a potential for turnovers. The Giants' offensive line has been playing better, but there's always a potential they can revert back to their bad play from earlier in the year, which could lead to potential sacks as well. And then my number 5 defense is the Packers against the Eagles. The Packers defense played pretty well this past week. And I think that can continue against the Eagles. The Eagles' offensive line, it's so banged up. They're always having to go, with a new lineup, it seems like every week at this point. And the Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith, even Rashawn Gary himself has been playing a lot better in the last few weeks. So I see all the potential to get the to get the sacks. And then if they can get after Carson Wentz, we've seen what Carson Wentz does when he's under pressure, either fumbles the ball or throws the ball to the opposing team. So there is that turnover as well, opportunities as well. Again, my top 5 streamable defenses this week: Raiders against the Jets, Dolphins against the Bengals, Vikings against the Jaguars, Seahawks against the Giants, and then Packers against the Eagles.
All of them. Agree with all of them. I love it. I just want to take this moment to also gloat to the rest of our Blitz guys that Cody and I are tied for first place in the pick'ems because we're better than you guys at this. So I just wanted to say that. I haven't talked a lot of trash.
We still got like 5 weeks to go.
We do. It's just in good fun, guys. Except for David Connors, my goal is to beat everyone, but you specifically, sir.
David right now first place in the 16-team league. So.
Yeah, David's good too, but. I'm coming for you, bud. That's going to do it for the show, man. We didn't have any other questions. And again, I'll say hi to Superfan Jay because he's here. But this whole week threw everybody off, so I assume a lot of people already got it set. I mean, it's Cody. It's freaking Thursday. Like, what the hell? Like,
yeah.
Oh, man.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. But like Cody said, we'll go ahead and break it now. It looks like next week's going to be the same time because the schedule is all pushed back. Thanks again, Baltimore. So we'll be coming to you again Thursday this time next week. So be sure to remember that. And Cody, we'll go ahead and end the show, man. So whatever you want to say, plug what you got to plug.
As always, guys, we're going to push this. We got 2 weeks until Christmas. You got like a kid that's a football fan, This will be a great thing for them to read. Scouting reports on all top 22 prospects for all 32 teams from the last 3 draft classes that have less than 12 career regular season starts. It's only $35 for that book that you just saw. You can go to blitzalytics.com/shop to order it. You can go to amazon.com. You can go to Target and order it as well. If you just want the PDF, though, it's only $15, or you can order an individual team PDF for $5. Again, go to blitzalytics.com/shop. And if you watch this podcast on YouTube, please make sure you hit the like button. Please make sure you have subscribed to our YouTube channel. We're almost at 900 subscribers. We want to get to the 1,000 mark. So let's keep on growing this thing. And so tell a friend about this podcast and our other shows that we have on the network. I will be back tomorrow morning for Cody Talks NFL to preview all of the Week 13 matchups, because we don't have a Thursday night game matchup tonight because, like Rob said, the Ravens completely mess up the schedule for these next couple of weeks. But I will be back tomorrow. Just in case anybody missed the announcement on our social media platforms, the football happy hour, we won't be doing that next week because the Cowboys and Ravens will be playing at that time. Again, they're messing up the schedule. Me and RobRob will be back next Thursday to do that week's Fantasy Voyage to help you guys get through the playoffs. Other than that, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Oh yeah, make sure you subscribe to the Blitzalytics podcast network on all major streaming platforms so you can get the audio versions of our shows. And other than that, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Blitz out.
Again, love it that he does that, because I ain't got much to do. You can follow me on Twitter at RobRobGraphics. Do what I've done the last couple of weeks and remind you to contact your loved ones, friends, family. It's a rough time for a lot of people. Suicide numbers are through the roof, so remember that your friends need you, your family needs you, and if you are somebody in that boat, it does not make you weak to ask for help. So if you need anything, you can even DM me, man. I go through that too. So I just like to talk about this that time of year, man, especially in 2020. So thank you so much to everyone who gives us a listen. Hopefully you've been listening, because I've been looking at these shows, Cody, and our numbers, man. Dude, our start sits are through the roof. Like, we're telling you what to get, buddy. So we're happy to have had you this far through the season. Only a few weeks left. So we want to thank you for tuning in this week, and obviously wish you good luck. Hope you all get that dub this week, and have a great week. We look forward to talking to you next week. This has been Fantasy Voyage, presented by Blitzalytics.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your captain speaking. You are now aboard the Fantasy Voyage Express. Time to pack your bags and let us take you on a journey to victory.
Come on, y'all, let's take a ride. You ain't gotta say a word, just slide inside. It's time to take your ass on another kind of trip, cause you ain't at the top if you don't got the ship. Grab some chips and a drink to sip, and close your eyes and hit that switch. We're going to a place where everybody kick it. Yeah, Blitzalytics. Ain't no friends and there ain't no simping, cause there ain't no team about to catch me tripping. Do you gotta get a stack or a third tier back? We got you covered all season to the ship from the draft. Take you to a place where you get that win, give you more than enough to defeat your friends. And if you can't take the heat, get your ass out the kitchen. We on a mission. Come along and ride on this fantasy. Slide, slide, slippity slide. When it's all up on the line, we can ease your mind. Come along and ride on this fantasy. Slide, slide, who ride? If you want to get the dub, you gotta tune in live.
You are now watching Fantasy Voyage, presented by Blitzalytics.com. And here are your hosts, Cody Manning